Okay, the first of the three places that we're going to look at is Mont Blanc. As you can see, Mont Blanc is part of the Alps mountain range in Europe. Right here is the Alps. It runs through France, Italy, Switzerland, Austria, a little bit of Slovenia, and Mont Blanc is right here on the western part of it. Mont Blanc lies in France, Switzerland, and Italy. It's right here at the border of all three of those. So if we zoom in, a little bit farther, here is Mont Blanc, and here are some photos of it. So this mountain range, the Alps and Mont Blanc, are formed by plate convergence. This is when two tectonic plates collide, and the result of this collision is the mountain range. The denser plate or crust will subduct, which means to go under the lighter one. There are three types of plate convergence: continental and oceanic, oceanic and oceanic, and continental and continental. The Alps this particular mountain range was formed from the collision of the African and Eurasian continental plates, so it's the third type, the continental and continental. When continental and continental convergence happens, volcanoes are rare, such as in the case of the Alps, where there are no volcanoes. Because the continental crust is too buoyant for too much subduction to take place, huge mountain ranges tend to develop with this type of convergence. We can see this when we look at the range of this mountain range. It extends all the way from France through Switzerland, Austria, Italy, all of those places. That was talking about plate convergence. The next place we are going to look at is the islands of Hawaii. Zoom over here. So these are the islands of Hawaii, a popular tourist destination. Lots of people like to come here. Just go through a few of the islands. So with the islands of Hawaii, they were formed by a mantle plume or a hotspot. This is where magma rises to the surface in the interior regions of a plate. In the PowerPoint and in class, we talked about Yellowstone and how the movement of that caused Snake Valley, but the islands of Hawaii were also formed with this kind of hotspot. The islands themselves were formed when the material that rose from the hotspot cooled, and the magma cooled, and then it formed the islands. This mantle plume, they take place in the middle of tectonic plates, so this took place in the middle of the Pacific Plate. As the Pacific Plate moved northwest over the hotspot, magma broke through the Earth's surface and formed the volcanic islands. Over millions of years, this formed the chain of islands that we now know as Hawaii. The youngest volcanoes, such as Mauna Loa, are on the Big Island directly over the hotspot. These are still active. Older islands farther northwest, like Kauai, so as we move up this way, are no longer active because they've moved away from the hotspots. The hotspot is shifting this direction. And as the hotspot moves and keeps going over the next, it's going to take a long time, but over the next couple million years, more islands have the potential to form. They'll start to form, like we talked about, as it moves this direction. So the islands that if they were to form, they'd form down over here as the tectonic plate continues to move, and as that hot spot, which stays stationary, stays in the same spot, but as the plate moves, then there's more areas for the magma to come up and form a new island. And then the third place that we're going to talk about is Mount Pinatubo. This is in the Philippines, so we're going to go west a little bit. Okay, Mount Pinatubo is a volcano. It was one of the most powerful active volcanoes of the 20th century. This volcano was a stratovolcano, and those volcanoes tend to erupt more violently. Stratovolcanoes alternate between lava-based non-violent eruptions and ash-based violent eruptions, and this alternation causes layers or strata to form. These volcanoes are generally very tall and steep-sided. However, that's not what you see here, and that's because this is actually going to be an example of a caldera. So a caldera is a crater that is created when a volcano collapses in on itself. So the historic Mount Pinatubo had a very large eruption a long time ago, and this caused it to cave in on itself and create this crater where now there is a lake. So you can see the sides. So this would have extended up, and this would have been the summit of the volcano at one point. You can zoom in. And here are some pictures of the lake that is now in this crater of where the volcano used to be. You can see the tall sides of the crater, which again, this used to be part of the volcano, the historic Mount Pinatubo volcano. And again, this is called a caldera. That is when the volcano collapses in on itself and creates a crater. But like I said, the historic volcano that used to be here, instead of the crater, that was a stratovolcano, which was it's the most violent type of volcano.